Hi there, my name is Eric Munoz, and I'm an academic and career counselor, and I'm going to go over my interview catching resume. But even though this says interview, you can use this for other items such as applying for grad school and other things and such. And so I hope that you get something out of it. So without further ado, let's jump into it. And I want to ask you, what is a resume? And also, have you thought about the purpose of a resume? And so if you could pause the video here and think about it, that would be great. But I'm imagining that most of you will get this right. And that is that a resume is a formal document that serves to show a person's career, background, and skills. And the purpose of the resume is to introduce yourself formally to your employers, present your qualifications, and secure an interview, right? If it's for grad school, you're presenting yourself to faculty, the committee, and seeing if you have the qualifications for grad school. And so, with that in mind, the goal of this workshop is, or presentation, is to understand how to write these sections on a resume in a format that is easy for recruiters and others and is eye-catching, meaning you want to have a really good, nice layout, so that way, they'll say, oh, this looks nice. And so some formatting tips, I like to refer back to this picture here because I think it really captures what I really want or what I really like on a resume is to keep it simple and clean. And it's so that it's easy on the eyes. You're not doing a whole lot on the resume. Unless you're in a graphic design major, then you could format it, look nice, and you can do a lot of things. Otherwise, yeah, you don't want to do too much. And so less is more in this case. And so I would like to say that, first of all, try not to use a template. If you have one, it's okay. I know I had one when I first started, but once you get more advanced, you just main reason why you don't use a template is because they tend to kind of mess with the margins, mess with the sections, and if you move one thing around, it kind of creates a whole headache of moving things around, and when you add things and you take out things, it's just a whole mess. So I like to tell my students, don't use a template. It's better to just go on a Word doc and write it out. It's more work. I will tell you that it is. It is more work, but you're gonna feel that it's much easier to add or take out or move things around. So first of all, don't use a template. Don't mess with the margins unless you know what you're doing. So I usually keep my margins the way they are, 1 inch all across. If you don't know what I'm talking about, fine, that's fine. Don't mess with the margins. Don't mess with anything. Just leave it the way it is. I like to go for single line spacing just because it makes it much easier for the white space in between, and you're not creating a whole lot of empty white space. And so that it looks nicer. And I can show you what it looks like, an example of it, but single line is usually best. And I like to tell students to go for a font that's, legible. You don't want to go like cursive or, go crazy with the font style. And usually like to keep it between 11 and 12. I know people say you can use 10. 10 starts to get a little small for me personally, but you could definitely, I guess you could do 10. I use 11.5 just because that's how it kind of looks nicer on my end. But yeah, I'll say 11, 12, even 10 if you feel like you need to do that. That's totally fine. And here it says present your contact information on top of your resume header. When I pick up a resume, I want to make sure that I know the name, the contact, how to contact you right away. I want to make sure that it's big. Your header should be your name should be the biggest part of your resume, and so yeah, I want to be able to tell who I'm looking at right away. Divide your document into easy to navigate resume sections, and I'll show you what that looks like. And describe your experience in the form of bullet points. Sometimes, if you're more advanced, if you've been like executive or something, you may want to write it in like a paragraph format. Otherwise, bullet point is totally fine. And leave enough white space for a balanced resume layout. And so, don't cramp everything in, but don't also like make everything way bigger than it is. So there needs to be a balance between the white space, so that way it looks nice. And I can show you again what that looks like in the future slides. All right, so let's go into the key components of a resume. So resume header, we talked about that. That should include, that should be the biggest font. So if your font is 11 or 12, your inside text, Usually your name, there's not a specific font size that you should use, but it should be, it can be 14 capitalized, 16, 20. It really depends how much space you have. And it really depends if you're going to fill the whole resume page, right? And so I would say as long as it's bigger and I can tell who it is, great. For your address, you no longer need to put your whole address. I know that now I used to do that, and that was like a old school thing to do. Now you just need the city and state, and that's it. Phone number to be able to reach you in case we need to catch you for an interview. And email, make sure it is professional. I know King Wizard 96, none of that stuff. Just keep it professional, all right? Recommendations, if you have a updated LinkedIn profile and your if you personalize your URL, if you don't know what I'm talking about, YouTube how to personalize the URL. Because when you create a LinkedIn account, it creates your name and a bunch of numbers and everything, and it doesn't look really clean. So if you personalize it and it's updated, yes, please include your LinkedIn URL so that way it's easier for us to find you. And you want it to be easier for folks to find you because they're going to Google your name anyways. And so why not just present something that you want them to see? Otherwise, they're going to try to look for your social media accounts, Facebook's, Instagram, whatever is tied into your email or your name is fair game. So I would say if you're not done so, please I'll work with your career advisor, career academic, and career counselor to see ways for you to create and update your LinkedIn profile. And if you have any web addresses, online profile, or projects, please include those as well. So an example of a resume header. So here's my name. I don't remember what font size is, but it's obviously bigger than my inside text. And so I have my city and state, break line here, phone number, my email, break line here, and then my LinkedIn URL, and that's all in one line. And then I have this underline here that kind of makes it into a visual break that this is my header. I'm going to go into a different section now. Quick tip: if you put 3 underscores on a row on a Word document and hit enter, it will create this line for you. This line right here, that's the way I've created it. And so, yeah, I would say use that. And so sections you may want to include, obviously your education. Usually, so what I have to say is like, if you're in school, it's totally okay if you have education on top. If you've been out in the workforce for a while, you may want to have education on the bottom and your experience on top. It really depends what A, you have to offer, and B, what the job it wants. So if the job is looking for someone who's currently in school, I would say put education first. And the job's it's reading like it's focusing more on the experience, then I would say put your experience first and then your education last. Because I'm a counselor, I am required to have a master's. I used to keep my education right on top, but now that I have more years in the line, I like to put my education second and my experience first because I've been in the field working for a long time. So that's what I would say when it comes to education. Now, so you want to include your school name in education section, degrees, your majors. Make sure you write the whole thing out. No BA of blah blah blah. No, Bachelor's of Arts in Business Administration with a concentration of whatever the whole title is. Keeping the whole title. And most, actually, all places they don't care when you start it. They just care what the expectation of graduation date is, which means that if you're going to graduate in a year from now or 2 years from now, you want to make sure that you put that, May of 2023 or May of 2024 or August of 2025. Wherever the graduation date is, expected graduation date is, you want to include that only. And I include that usually to the right-hand side of it. Not sure how that looks like, so that way they can be able to tell easily that date. Things you may want to include, depending if you have a lot of experience or you may not have a lot of experience, you can include relevant courseworks, projects. GPA is kind of like up to you. My master's program, I almost have like a 4.0. I don't include GPA. That's personal preference only because I think it makes me seem like I'm still kind of like in school mode. Like I'm like it doesn't matter in education whether you have 4.0 or not. So I don't include it, but this could be good, and depending on what major or what field you're trying to go to, and if it's competitive, hey, why not? So yes, though that is the education section. All right, and this is an example of what an education section will look like. So education, line break, and so place, city, state, and the whole title: Master of Science in Counseling, Concentration College Counseling, and the day expectation of graduation. Now, this passed already, so that's fine. But if this was May of 2025, that's totally fine to just leave it like that. And you can put, expected graduation here, or you can. I usually put like, yeah, expected graduation date. But if you just leave the date May 2025, they already know that you haven't graduated yet. It's a future date. And then I have my bachelor's here, and with the graduation date as well. And also have my associates in here. Now you may be wondering, Eric, how come you have a master's and bachelor's and you have your associates in there? Good question. I have my associates there because my associates of arts are different than my bachelor's and my master's. So if my associate of arts was the same as my bachelor's, and if it was the same as my master's, like let's say it's the same major, then I would not have the AA degrees, only because it's the same thing, and the higher one wins, the stronger one wins. So if this was the same, I would just have my master's. If this was different and this was different, of course, I have it the way I have it here, which is all listed in there. So that's something that I've kind of learned, and then it's up to you really. And if you want to just put it in there, you can definitely do that. That's no problem. Alrighty, so moving on to work experience. Work experience, I call it the main event, the biggest part of the chunk of your resume, where you're going to spend the most time to write it, just because it's going to take some time. There are a couple of ways to write work experience. The most common one is reverse chronological, which means the job you're doing right now, what you did last, will go first, and then we'll go backwards that way. Now you may be wondering, like, Eric, how far do I go back? I usually say, like, if you've been working for a while, no more than like 10, 11 years. You don't want to go too far. I think I've gone to 10 years max. But then also depends if the job is relevant, right? So you don't want to just put jobs that are just there just for the sake of putting them there. Then that's not going to work. And so, or let me just say, that's not going to be strong. So, yeah, don't go past like 10 years. And so the way you want to write this is kind of similar to the education section. Company name, city, state, and at this one, they do care when you started. So please put the time, the month and year you started, dash by the month and year that you finish, or if you're there presently, dash present, right? Make sure you write your bullet points and accomplishment statements. I like to use the CAR format, which I'll tell you what that is in a bit. Please don't use I, and when you write those bullet points, don't use I anywhere really. Present tense if it's a current position, and make sure that if it's a past position that you're writing in the past tense. And so with that, please, when you write these bullet points or accomplishment statements, don't use fluff, meaning don't use words that are not really don't really showcase your skills and strength. And those words are kind of like assisted, attended, etc. And I'll give you more on the next page. But yeah, these are just some tips when it comes to work experience. So instead of using fluff, you may want to use a really good action verb list, which I'm going to have listed on here to download for you. So you can have this action verb list for you. And the reason why I like this one here is because it breaks it by different areas. So if you're in management, you want to use management action verbs. If you go into like accounting or something that uses very high detail, you want to use some of these words here. Research, you want to use these words, etc., etc. I myself use teaching and helping. You can't see it in this one here, but when you download the action verb list, you'll see those. And that makes sense, right? Because I'm in education. So those three, communication, teaching, helping, those three will be my primarily action verbs list words that I use in my resume. And so, as promised, I will tell you what a CAR statement is, or the format that I use to write these accomplishment statements. And so I'm going to break it down for you, okay? So C stands for challenge. It's the what section. It's the what were you tasked with, what were your responsibilities, what were you doing. Most people, I would say, are really good at telling what they were doing, what their task was. This is pretty simple, and most people do that. Now, some people may or may not use a strong action verb, and even though this is on the section here, you actually start with a strong action verb first, and then you tell me what you were doing. So it's a little bit complicated, but if you pay attention, action verb first, and then tell me what the challenge. Tell me what you were doing. So start with the strong action verb from the previous action verb list, and we can go from what, and at the end, a lot of people do not say the results of what that accomplishment or why should I care that you did that certain way? Well, I care you should care because, you know, I accomplished this and this and this for the position and for the company, and that's what we're looking to find. Because if you have success in multiple different companies and multiple different positions, when I look at the resume and anybody pulls a resume, I'm trying to see if you can replicate that success you had there here with us. And so that's the way that most people are looking at your resume, to see what you have accomplished, to see what you were able to do and provide for them, what you had success in the past in doing so. And so with that, I'm going to give you an example of what the car statement format looks like. And so here is one position that I have held. And I'm going to go into this third bullet point here, starting with collaborates. I have it down here for you already highlighted so you can maybe see a little better. So it's collaborate with Director of Career Center. So my action verb list is collaborating. Collaborate with, and then I'm going to say what I was doing. Collaborate with Director of Career Center to supervise and train student assistants and to ensure student success and satisfaction. And for my results, I'm actually using the words resulting in an increase of 50% of student traffic in the center. So C, the challenge, my action verb A, and the results are CAR. What you will notice is that all of these accomplishment statements start with a different action verb, because I want to demonstrate that I possess a different set of skills. Though they may be within the same area, I am talking about, coaching, administrating, collaborating, evaluating. Things you may notice as well is that I'm actually writing some numbers in there, some plus signs, because I don't know the exact number. I don't really know. But I do know that it says at least 3,000 plus. And so I'm taking an educated guess on how many students I've served, or how many folks I've helped. And so, numbers are good, percentages are good. And so that way you give them a clear picture of what you're able to do. Lastly, what I would like to say is that you will notice that my bullet points are fairly lengthy, I guess, quote unquote, because there's still one sentence. And so because there's still one sentence, that means that, it's fair game. I can use as much as I need to explain what I'm doing specifically. A lot of students, when I see, they, just write a little bit because they think only one line is what they have to do. Don't be afraid to keep going a little bit more. And that what actually does it kind of gives you more, you utilize most of the space, and it starts to look a little bit nicer that way. What I've seen is the students have like one word here by themselves, and they just have this big white space like on the side, and it just does not look good. So things to keep in mind, most certainly. And of course, the subheader, the line, the place, the city and state, the title, keeping the same format. And then when I start it, and if I'm still in there, or, of course, if I've finished this. And so if it's, by the time I was present, this will have to be written in present tense. So just things to keep in mind, right? Alrighty, so moving on. Other optional sections you may have are certifications and licensures in your resume. If you have a publication, if you help somebody write something and your name is there, sure, why not? You may have projects from schools or from work, put them in there. You may have some awards and honors, sure, that can be utilized. And volunteer work. There's ways to, make sure when you do volunteer work, you're still working, you're still learning. And so make sure to include those if that is something that you want to make sure that you have. So if you have, make sure to include it. And before you submit your resume, please keep calm and think strategically. Make sure you proofread. Proofread is a must. And proofread again and again and again. And then have somebody else take a look at it. Well, ideally, hopefully a career advisor or someone who's really good at catching spelling errors, but also knowing the content, what do you want to say. So, someone, career related might be nice. And then quality over quantity. Don't just write a really awesome one page and you're like, oh, I only have one page. I'm going to write more just to have a second page. No, because then you clearly can see that you spent a lot of good, work, and it looks solid at the first page, and the second page is like, well, what happened here? This person kind of lost the format, lost the way. And so if you have a really strong one page, that's a lot stronger than having one page, 1.5, 2 pages. That's like, the second one is like, that's all right. And make sure you tailor your resume to a specific job. So, if you're applying for the same sector or, area, you're probably going to have a lot of related jobs and things that you put in there. Otherwise, you won't, or you won't have to tailor as much. But if you go to a different job that's a little different, and you may have a specific job or skill set that you didn't include for the first one, but it may make sense to include for this one. Yeah, make sure you tailor it, because then that way, you're making your case a lot stronger than just writing the same resume over and over again, hoping that you catch something. And so that's, strategically speaking, it's better to tailor your resume. And I make sure you use your resume in a PDF format. Word document sometimes because the formatting gets messed up. Here's a tip: email it to yourself first, see how it looks like, and you can actually email it to yourself and then put like you're going to print it, but don't print it out. You just save it as PDF. That's what I do all the time, and I send it over. So yeah, send your resume a PDF. It locks in that format, and you can email it to yourself so that way you can see how it looks like before you send it. So questions? No. Alrighty. So no questions. Oh, well, since this is an online video, make sure you write your questions on the comments, and I'll try to get to as many as possible. It would be nice to have a lot of questions so we can do maybe like an FAQ. Otherwise, yeah, I thank you for your time, and hopefully this is some tips that can help you with writing your resume. Well, have a nice day. Bye.